Welcome to the Women in AV. I am your host, Erica Carroll, and today we're diving into another inspiring story of a woman breaking barriers in the audiovisual world. Kameesha Jones, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to hear about your story and share it with other people. So let's just kick it off there. How did you get into AV? What sparked the interest? How did you get to where you are now?
Okay. So I'm a musician, so automatically I think, when I got my undergraduate degree, I got my undergraduate degree in music technology. So was trying to navigate that and see what I wanted to do after undergrad. I did graduate during the recession time, so my main focus was how to find a job with money, and music wasn't it. You can't get money like that. So I ended up going to law school, randomly enough. Law school didn't work out for me because I'm too much of a creative than to sit down and read 200 pages a night for law. So that wasn't for me. So I ended up going back to school at FIU, Florida International University, and I got my master's degree in music production and management. During that time, it gave me an opportunity to see the other side of audio. So I interned at the Adrian Arts Center, and I was on the production side of that. With that, it entails me reading contracts, reading writers for the shows, the Broadway shows that was coming into play. So I had my hand on a lot of Broadway shows, such as The Lion King on Broadway, The Bodyguard on Broadway. So those right there was introduced to me during my internship phase after I got my master's degree. So with that, I started talking to people like, hey, what do you do? And they were like, oh, I do audio visual. And I'm like, what is that? So they were just explaining to me that they're responsible for anything, a person sees and hears at events or Broadway shows and stuff like that, live shows, entertainment. So I'm like, okay, didn't know that was something or a field that I thought was like, okay, didn't think it was something that you get money from. So I dived a little bit more deeper into it. After my internship, I started to get into museums. Some museums needed an AV person just to monitor monitors and projector screens, the exhibits and things like that. So I'm like, okay, cool. This is actually cool. Then I got an opportunity to work in a university setting. So with that being said, I ended up relocating to New York. I was an audio tech there at NYU. So that introduced me to more private events, much more, student-based events. But the student-based events, they were like productions, like live shows, things like that. So that was also cool. I also really wanted to make sure that I wasn't losing my audio field. So I ended up doing a lot of off-Broadway shows for off-Broadway shows at performing arts centers, such as the AVNation Performing Arts Center in New Jersey. And then I got the cool gig to work at the Met in New York, which was totally awesome.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, it was amazing just to transform an exhibit into an actual performing, because we did a opera in one of the exhibits. So transforming that, we had 34 opera singers in a space where the acoustics was just amazing in that space. And then you have a full orchestra pit, things like that. So, starting from just learning about it as an intern to actually being in that mind and that field, it was just amazing. But also, too, I had to start from grunt work, because I literally did grunt work, such as pushing cables, pushing boxes, load in, load out. So I wasn't getting the hands on audio mixer at all until probably when I moved to New York. And that's when I really got my hand into my audio field and stuff like that. And also, too, when you're living in New York, you're up against the creme de la creme. So the best of the best audio person. So I had to make sure that I was on point and make sure I was on cue. That's why I had a lot of odd jobs and had a lot of audio jobs, because I'm like, I need to make sure I'm practicing, make sure I'm on P's and Q's, because I want to also get hired. But also, too, in New York has taught me, too, audio shouldn't be the only thing that you need to know. So when I started working at the Met, they were like, okay, you can do audio. What else can you do? Well, I can say, I can put a camera in my hand, do a little lighting. I didn't know anything about it, but I did YouTube University. So I was
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube figuring it out because once again, I wanted that gig. I wanted to say I'm
Yeah.
just more than an audio person. So doing that, COVID hit. COVID was it hit our industry very hard. And that's when I
Mm-hmm.
started to say, okay, what else can I do? And that's what got me introduced to Avixa. And they were like, oh, they have programs or you can get certifications and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, well, why not? Since I'm on my downtime, um, not really doing nothing but eating and watching and binge watching shows. So why not
Right.
do something that's going to help me in my career once this COVID thing ends? So that's when I really started getting to the certifications. That's when I found out about Infocom and things like that. So after the pandemic, I ended up moving to Texas. So after New York, because once again, New York, after COVID, I couldn't stay in New York because it was expensive. I didn't have a
Mm-hmm.
job. So I ended up having to relocate and having to figure out what I need to do next. So I got a job randomly in Texas at Tarleton State University. It was another university setting. I like. I ended up figuring out that I liked the university settings because it gave me an opportunity to mentor, to educate the upcoming people that was working up under me, such as production, little production assistants and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I ended up at Tarleton State University in Texas, and when Texas, I stayed only for a year because of racial things that was happening in the university, and I was way too far away from home. But
Mm-hmm.
I ended up my first time ever designing ballrooms was at Tarleton State University, which they allowed me to do that. So that was my first time ever getting into the design phase of a ballroom, things like that. What needs to go into the ballroom, so which was pretty cool. So I'm not saying that year that I was in Texas was a waste. It was actually
Mm-hmm.
educational and actually told me the word of resilience. With all the adversity that I faced in there, I still came up on top. So I am thankful for that opportunity.
Kamisha, it sounds like you have had a really fascinating journey to get to where you are, and I'd love to learn more about what you think about mentorship. It does sound like you're, passionate about giving other people that sort of a similar or maybe an easier opportunity than you have had. What has mentorship looked like for you?
Mentorship looks like a lot. It's once again when I was navigating through my ways, I really didn't have anybody to say, hey, this is the right direction you should go into. These are the certifications that I've gotten. These are the certifications that employees are looking for. So things like that, or even just a resume look. Hey, nobody looked at my resume and
Mm-hmm.
said, hey, you should add this or this type of language. So mentorship means a lot. Mentorship means, you have someone to look at your resume and say, hey, I think you need to change your language here. Yes, I know we have AI and all of this stuff now, but also too, there's a difference. AI doesn't have heart. So,
Mm-hmm.
you have to once again make sure you have your heart on your sleeve when it comes to your resume too. Yes, it's all about the verbiage and things like that, but also too, they want to know what else have you worked with, what equipment have you worked on. So yeah, mentorship means a lot. And like I said, I wish I had a me coming into the industry of
Yeah.
having navigating through the industry.
Part of it too, I think, is you can't be what you can't see. We've said that a million times, and you and I share the CI 40 under 40
Hmm.
title, and I think being able to use those sort of platforms to get your story out, and just like this platform we have here, getting your story out so that people can see that we are all coming from such different places, walks of life, and I think that is like this disjointed mentorship, right? You can be a mentor to somebody who doesn't even know that you're being mentored, um,
Right,
just because they're looking up to you and they're able to see you in those
right,
spaces. Yeah.
absolutely.
So as you're taking people under your wing and you're giving them that opportunity as a mentor, um, how many people do you think you're mentoring, and what kinds of opportunities are you providing for them?
Um, I'll say right now I'm probably about up to like 5 to 7 right now. Um,
Okay.
Going to my younger generation, my 15, 16 to 17 year olds that I mentor, I give them hope. I give them an opportunity to say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, just because you coming from a very urban community, you cannot let your environment dictate your future. So a lot of times I put myself, I'm like, I came from the exact high school you came from. I came from the exact struggles that you came from. And I'm standing before you with 2 degrees, very well educated. I'm in a career, not a job. So just giving them
Mm-hmm.
the same me type of things. I also put them into a debutante. I'm in a sorority at the moment, Delta Sigma Theta sorority. So with that, they have smaller and they have debutante groups for each
Mm-hmm.
age group. So I put them in those age groups to so that they are aware of how to present themselves as a young lady, how to become a better woman in whatever atmosphere that you want to be in, and also to give them the language that they need to when it comes to resume building or even taking them out of town. Some of them have never been out of the state of Florida or even out of the city of Miami. So giving them an opportunity to
Sure.
say, hey, we want a college tour. Like we have
Mm-hmm.
a college trip set up for April that we're taking them on college tours, taking them on trade school tours as well too, to say, hey, college might not be for you. You might
Mm-hmm.
want to go into the HVAC or traditional or things like that. I try not to push AV on them. And one of them,
Sure.
she loves it, but I also too don't want to push it on them. I want to say, hey, this is actually what I do. This is something that if you'd
Mm-hmm.
like to be interested in, I'll, more than welcome, but I don't push it on them. For my middle, I'll say about my college mentees getting ready to graduate from college. I give them opportunities. Like last night, I literally just saw one of my mentees an apprenticeship for the Adrian Arts Center because they're getting ready to open that back up. So giving him the opportunity to say, hey, this apprenticeship is about to happen. It's paid. It's 3 years, and they're looking for somebody like you. So he
Yeah.
applied and things like that. Also, too, at the Miami Heat, they also have internships that I give to them to say, hey, apply for this. Two of my old mentees, they actually work with the Miami Heat right now. One for Heat TV and the other one for the marketing department because they were actually
Okay.
interns prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
For my older one, the right now we're kind of almost similar in age, but I'm a little older in her by like 3 years. She's in Texas. She just got a new mega church. She's over the AV at a mega church right now, and a lot of tips and tools that I've taught her to say, hey, you have to know your worth because they were at her other church. She was getting paid nickels and dimes, and I said, no, honey, you need to
Mm-hmm.
getting paid dollars and dollars
Yeah.
and
And bigger
stacks.
dollars.
So
And bigger
yes, you
dollars.
know what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So
Yeah.
getting her to say, hey, you have a degree. A degree holds
Yeah.
weight. People know what you actually are doing and not just saying, oh, yeah, I have this experience. No, I have this experience. Plus, I have book knowledge. So giving her that
Mm-hmm.
confidence to say, hey, I am worth this much. So now she's running a mega church right now, AV, and she's killing it. Anything like she had a issue. We was in church. We both had the same issue,
Mm-hmm.
which was crazy at church. She FaceTime and I'm like, girl, I'm having the same issue. Let's work through this together. So we in full
Yeah.
live sessions at church, figuring it out together. Because once again, who else she's gonna call? And at the time,
Right.
I didn't know what the issue was either. So I'm like, let's work it out and let's bounce each other ideas. And we was having the same problem.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a
That's great.
network problem that we both figured out, and we laughed about it later. But
Yeah.
yeah, those are the tools and things that and opportunities that I give them. Because once again, I tell my college students, hey, Dante is free and it's a certification that people are looking for. They like, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
So things like that, something that's free. And saying,
Yeah.
CTS, I'm like, hey, that is more expensive. But also, too, if you go to an employer that encourages that type of things, they can pay that for you. And they was like, really? So stuff like that they
Mm-hmm.
don't know. So it's up to
Right.
me, to give them that type of information, even if it's a small little thing or a small little tip, it's free. So those are the opportunities and things that I get from my mentees.
That's awesome. It sounds like you're passionate about this and driving the future workforce um and I love the passion project you have, with the Miami Heat and keeping your own skills. You got to keep practicing, absolutely. What, if anything else, because it sounds like a lot, what are you passionate about?
I'm passionate about a lot, and I think with Hetman, me being the DEI chair, opened my eyes to
Mm,
seeing a lot of things. I really, really, I think my main goal when I stepped into the AV and I have a platform such as Hetman, I think my biggest thing was bridging that gap. We have a
Mm-hmm.
big gap that needs to be there. Like you have the older generation that's getting ready to retire out of the AV industry, and who else? No, and then
Mm-hmm.
you trying to pick now people that just fall into AV instead of, hey, we have these young kids that don't know that their AV is a thing. They called me a DJ. They thought I was a DJ. They was like, oh, you're a DJ. Nope.
Right.
I'm an audiovisual person. Let me explain what that is. So
Mm-hmm.
bridging that gap, and I'm very, you know, adamant about that to say, hey, we need the next generation to come on in because we do have a lot of people, a lot of older people that are getting ready to retire or dying out, and we need that young, fresh people, a fresh set of eyes because we're dealing with the whole digital
Absolutely.
aspect now. And the younger generation has that because they grew up on the digital aspect as opposed to myself when I was growing up, the internet was just starting. When I tell my
Right.
students that, it was like, what did you do? Went
Yeah.
outside,
Yeah. You go
played.
outside. Yeah.
Right.
You.
So,
Yeah.
um, giving them those fresh eyes, we need that fresh eyes in the audiovisual industry because, once again, as you know, AI is taking over and things like that. And sometimes we don't know our generation, know too much about it unless we're reading about it and things like that. But if this
Mm-hmm.
generation that actually helped created that AI situation brings on board and help us be more innovative in the AV industry, I think that is brilliant. Why not? So my goal for this and for the platforms that I've been given is to really bringing in the younger generation to say, hey, come on now,
Mm-hmm.
come on, I'm pushing you in the front for us, pushing you forward because once again, we need people like you. So I think that's mainly what I'm really passionate about. Is really bringing up the next generation. That's why I'm very active in my community. That's why I'm very active about giving back. That's why I'm very active about going to a lot of career fairs. I'm very active on that because they don't see, they like, what is an audiovisual person? When I tell the kids that I work for the Miami Heat, they like, you lying. So when I pull up videos and stuff like that, they like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
And then the next question is how much you get paid. So, but
Of course.
that's beside the point. But just giving them exposure to say everybody needs audiovisual. You can go to a concert.
It's a interesting point that you bring up though, because so the work that we've done with Rosie Riveters and Rosie Riveters Explores Pro AV and getting STEM kits to students. Now we're talking like kindergarten through fifth grade is like the target audience for us, and we give them a STEM kit that shows something very basic, a very foundational learning of something, and then we teach how it ties into the audio video field. And on this pamphlet that we give out, we included an insert in every single kit. And in that insert, we list out, 5 or 10 jobs that you can have in AV. And at that age, when we started doing this, they actually told us put the salary ranges. Kindergarten through fifth grade want to know what the salary ranges are on what they could be within this industry. And I think that that's something that's really important to the next generation coming up, that they want to live, a nicer lifestyle. And they're going to probably, hopefully, chase a job that's going to afford them that. And AV is absolutely a career path, an intentional career path. Is I'm totally on board with you. That's what we're striving towards, is creating an intentional career path.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, and it goes back to social media. Social media paints that picture in their
Hmm.
minds to say, hey, this is the lavish life. So now they're like, okay, well, I can do this. How much I get paid? I'm so like,
Right.
okay, wait, hold on.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, that's my passion about. Just to answer your question.
I love it. So a question that I ask all of my guests: what are you reading or listening to, or what have you learned recently that's worth sharing?
I think for me, once again, with me being the DEI chair for HETMA and just being that vessel that I can be, I do a lot of research on DEI initiatives that are being taken away
Hmm.
on big companies such as Walmart, Ford, things like that. So just seeing, just reading that, and it's like it's sad, but also too, what else can we
Yeah.
do for that? And just like I said, just constantly keep fighting because once again, I do stay in Florida. A lot of DEI initiatives, it affects and with me being in the institution that I am in, I'm Florida institution government ran, we do not
Mm-hmm.
have the type of DEI programs because of the simple fact of the bill that was passed here in Florida. So seeing
Yeah.
how that navigates, seeing how much also too it affects our students, it's like, oh my gosh. So us having to disguise events and things like that to not make it seem as though it's DEI so that the kids can still have that still feel. So
Mm-hmm.
researching that, seeing how I can help in any way possible for our students that are being affected by this thing, and just being there for them and just saying, okay, it's okay. How can we pivot? How can
Yeah.
we, still educate, and also too we can educate a different way, not having necessarily to say DEI or anything like that. So just trying to see just to pivot, and things like that. What I've learned is recently, like it's an ongoing battle, and I am on the front
Mm-hmm.
lines, and I don't mind being on the front lines of that because it is something that I'm passionate about. Because once again, when I have children, I want to make sure my children are safe. I want to make sure my children have the opportunities out there just as well as everybody else does.
Absolutely. Wonderful. And finally, a tradition we have here, I have my previous guests leave a question for the next guest, not knowing who it might be. So the question for you, in lieu of it could be a New Year's resolution, it is January, but in lieu of a New Year's resolution, what is your goal for this year, for 2025?
I have a word this year. It's intentional. Everything that I'm doing is intentional. Everything, everything that I'm doing is intentional. It's for a reason. It's for a purpose. So even if I don't want to do it, I'm going to do it because it's intentional, and I want to make sure that I am doing everything that I said I was going to do, and not so much of talk about it, because we have a tendency of talking about, oh yeah, I want to do this and do that. No, no, no. I'm going to talk about it, but also I'm going to be intentional about it, and I'm going to put it in action. So that's my goal and everything for this year.
I love it. Thank you so much. And thank you for being on the show. It's been so awesome just listening to your story, having you on the show, listening to your insights and experiences. And where can people meet you, or where can they reach you online?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Kameesha Jones. I'm very active on that. If you want to find me on Twitter, I'm also on Twitter at K1117. Yeah. So find me on there.
Awesome. And for all of our listeners, you can also find me at the Erica Carroll at all of the social places. And thank you again to all our listeners. If you are listening to this as audio only, be sure to check out the YouTube version, and vice versa. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can also find us anywhere you get your podcasts, along with any other AVNation show, like our friends over at State of Control on avnation.tv.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
This is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.
This is Erin Marmoran of EdTech. The world of higher ed AV is growing rapidly. That's why each month we hear from the best and brightest from colleges and universities all over the U.S. Check out EdTech on avnation.tv or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.